distinguished guests, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good day to each and every one of you from the Pearl of the Orient, Penang Island. I am Rohaiza, and on behalf of the host, welcome to IELTSCon 2021. This is the 10th International English Language Teaching Conference that is being organized and hosted by Delta. This year's theme is Developing Future Skills in English Language Teaching. It is unfortunate that we are not able to personally welcome you to our beautiful island, but we are very proud to bring IELTSCon 2021 to you virtually. It is therefore befitting that one of the themes of our conference revolves around leveraging technology in education to drive creativity and innovation in a world experiencing unprecedented disruption. Without further ado, let us start with a welcoming speech by our beloved Madam President, Ms. Rowena Capel.
Yang Amat Berhormat Tuan Chow Kon Yau, the Chief Minister of Penang, Dr. Gabriela Klekova from the University of West Bohemia, Czech Republic, who is also the TESOL International Association USA President for the term 2021 to 2022, Associate Professor Dr. Jonathan Newton from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, Associate Professor Dr. Tamas from Sunway University, Malaysia, Mr. Alan Davenport, the Teacher Development Manager for the Southeast Asian region at Cambridge University Press, our distinguished featured and invited speakers, fellow Peltarians, ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone. On behalf of Peltar, I warmly welcome all to IELTSCon 2021, our 10th International English Language Teaching Conference. We especially thank Yang Amat Berhormat Tuan Chow Kon Yau for making time in his very busy schedule to grace the opening ceremony of our conference. We hope that the Penang State Government will continue to give Peltar its support in all our future activities. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to announce that at this conference, we have presenters and participants from at least 26 countries, namely Australia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Canada, China, the Czech Republic, Hungary, India, Indonesia, Iran, Japan, Kuwait, Mexico, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Pakistan, Peru, the Philippines, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, the United Kingdom, the United States, Venezuela, and Malaysia. Welcome, everyone. We also welcome and thank all our keynote speakers for accepting our invitation to speak at this conference. Dr. Gabriela Klekova, welcome, Gabriela. We're very pleased to have you join us at this conference, and we hope to work with you again in future activities. Associate Professor Dr. Jonathan Newton. Jonathan is a loved and loyal supporter of Peltar. Thank you, Jonathan. We are very happy to have you join us again. Associate Professor Dr. Tamas Kish. Tamas is no newcomer to Peltar. He is one of our most loved and loyal supporters. Thank you, Tamas. We are always happy to have you with us. Mr. Alan Davenport. Alan is also a very loyal and loved supporter of Peltar. Thank you, Alan. It is always a pleasure having you with us. We also welcome our featured and invited speakers, Ms. Lucille Das, who is our beloved and passionate founder member of Peltar, who also wrote the acronym for Peltar, which you will find in the program book. Mr. Mike Mayer from Pearson, Dr. Francisca Maria Yvonne from Universitas Negeri Malang, Indonesia, Mr. Amin Negawati from the United World College of Southeast Asia, Singapore, Mr. Dera Estuarso from SMP Negeri Lima Ngawan, Indonesia, who is also with the Jogja English Teachers Association, Mr. Samuel Isaiah, who is the Director of Pemimpin GSL, Malaysia, Ms. Miriam Esther Puente Rodriguez from Primaria Vespertina Leona Vicario, Mexico. We also warmly welcome our Thailand TESOL affiliate representatives, Associate Professor Dr. Korn Wipa Punpon, Chair of the Regional Affiliates, Konkan University, Thailand, and Dr. Wacharin Phongoi, Chair of the Lower Southern Affiliate, Princess of Naradivas University, Thailand. Sawadika and welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, IELTSCon 2021 is part of PELTA's commitment to develop and enhance innovative and successful teaching and learning practices among the ELT community. Many changes have taken place in the world of teaching over the past 2 years, and this is especially so in the role that our association has had to play in providing support to our members. PELTA realized that we need to help our members in ways we had never done before to stay relevant and to maintain connectivity with them throughout this pandemic. We had to learn new ways to connect virtually in order to reach out in support of teachers caught in the drastic educational changes that came with the global crisis. PELTA moved towards developing online monthly workshops and webinars through working with teachers, professional organizations, and experts from across the globe to provide specialized development to support members in this new digital online learning loop. This pandemic has been a learning curve for PELTA. We have had to adapt quickly to the changes and challenges faced by everyone. It was rather intimidating initially, but I'm happy to say that we have grown through this crisis. This pandemic has most certainly opened new doors for PELTA. There's no question that English language educators from all levels are capable of incredible things. They have truly risen to the occasion during this calamity. The main aim of this conference is to address and support the changing needs of English language educators today and to focus on developing future skills, hence our theme. PELTA acknowledges and is thankful to the various sponsors and all those who have contributed in one way or another towards the success of this conference. To all presenters and participants, I congratulate and thank you. Your participation shows your level of professional commitment to a worldwide ELT community. I wish all an enlightening and enjoyable conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Rovina. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very honored today to have the Chief Minister of Penang, Yang Amat Berhormat, Tuan Chow Kon Yeow, to graciously officiate the opening of IELTSCon 2021.
Presidents of PELTA, organizing committee members, teachers and educators from Malaysia, and international participants of the 10th International English Language Teaching Conference 2021, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. It is my pleasure to be here today among a community of English language experts, teachers, language practitioners, lecturers from various educational institutions throughout Malaysia as well as from abroad. A very warm welcome to all. I understand that this is the 10th International Conference organized by the Penang English Language Learning and Teaching Association, PELTA, but the first to be conducted by virtual conference. I believe that PELTA will do your best and the conference will provide participants with a good balance of both research and the best pedagogical practices through the rich varieties of presentation during this conference. The state government definitely applauds and supports the good intentions of PELTA to develop and enhance the capacity of our English language teachers by nurturing the present and future generations of students to be effective global citizens who will have an impact on our economy as well as the development of Penang and our country. To presenters and participants from abroad, I wish your countries will greatly benefit when you bring home what you have gained from this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, you have the privilege and the challenge of teaching English language to diverse learners at varying levels of competency in the language. More importantly, all of you play a key role in ensuring that your students are able to use English to communicate effectively. Therefore, I am very confident that this two-day international conference will serve as a platform for the exchange of information, ideas and experiences based on research, pedagogy, and best practices of the presenters and keynote speakers from across the globe. I also believe that this conference will provide the opportunity for English language educators to form professional learning networks to support one another. The conference has adopted a timely theme, that is, developing future skills in English language teaching. We need to ask ourselves, what are the appropriate measures we can take to help our learners develop language competency academically now and professionally at a later stage in life? The English language is the world's lingua franca. It is the language medium that provides access to international relations, global investments, and job markets. Hence, it is of vital importance not only to address its decline, but also to enhance the English language proficiency amongst our students in this modern, technologically driven world. Let us together produce future-ready students and graduates who are competent in the English language to meet the demands of the industry in Penang. I would also like to commend the presenters and participants for taking the opportunity afforded by this conference to come together to share your views, ideas, and research findings. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, I am glad you have decided to come together for professional growth. I wish all a fruitful conference. With this, I declare the 10th International English Language Teaching Conference 2021 officially open. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yang Amat Berhormat. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our opening ceremony. We look forward to 2 days of exceptional sharing and learning, and we at PELTA are at your service to ensure a successful conference. Our first keynote address, Zen and the Art of English Language Teaching, by Associate Professor Dr. Tamas from Sunway University, is scheduled at 9:30 a.m. Malaysian time. Thank you and salam sejahtera. Happy conferencing.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first keynote session of PELTA's 10th International English Language Teaching Conference. I'm Kasvini, and I'm the moderator for the session. I am glad to welcome all of you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Associate Professor Dr. Tamas for this first keynote today. His presentation title is Zen and the Art of English Language Teaching. Hi, Professor. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. Excited for the start of the talk.
Yes, a lot of people woke up very early to catch your talk. With that, I will pass the virtual mic to you.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here again at PELTA. This is my fourth PELTA conference and the first virtual one. Actually, this is a lot of first for the first time because this is the first time I'm doing the opening plenary. This is the first time when I'm presenting a keynote speech in the virtual world by standing rather than sitting in front of my computer. So a lot of first, especially giving the first opening talk at a conference is quite a big responsibility because you are basically setting the tone for the conference. You are the one who keeps and starts the ball rolling. You know, this whole virtual conferencing was quite exciting and also nerve-wracking. You know, when you saw the counter going down from 30 and you saw 10, 9, you're going to be live in a minute. Oh my gosh, do I know what I'm going to talk about? Hope so. We'll see. So I hope that I can offer you some food for thought at this early morning, as Kasvini was saying. Now, some of you might be wondering about the title of my talk, Zen and the Art of English Language Teaching. Well, I have to assure you that I'm not a Zen Buddhist, and I'm not going to imply that you should convert to Buddhism in order to be a good language teacher. The title is actually a reference to a book that has made a big impact on my thinking as a teacher and as a teacher educator. That book is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, an Inquiry into Values by Robert Pirsig. This book was published in 1974, and I know some of you might not have been even born at that time. The novel serves as a fictionalized autobiography of the author, and it also offers some philosophical discussions on the metaphysics of quality, as Pirsig calls it, and as the subtitle suggests, an inquiry into values. But later in the interview, Pirsig actually admitted that the book has not much to do with Zen Buddhism, and when it comes to motorcycles, it is also not that factual either. He borrowed the title from a book with the title Zen in the Art of Archery that was published in 1948 by a German philosopher. So I'm just simply following suit and I'm borrowing his title for my talk. So why do you think I have borrowed the title of this book for my talk? Well, when I looked at the theme of the conference, developing future skills in English language teaching, I started to think about what kind of skills do we need? Is English language teaching going to be different? Is the students, the classrooms, the technology that we are going to use going to be different in the future? But the answer is probably yes. And I think the pandemic was a good example that we language teachers will always need to change and always need to adapt to the changing circumstances. I think we did it relatively well, more or less, because what inspired us to change the way we were teaching is the desire to offer quality learning for our students. And I think this quest for quality learning, for quality teaching, for the quality of life for both teachers and students in the classroom, as Dick Allwright once was explaining in his exploratory practice, is what drives us to be better teachers. You know, the need for quality is what distinguishes, and the efforts put into there is what distinguishes good and outstanding teachers for average teachers. But quality itself is not easy to define. So what is quality? What I would like you to do now, on whatever platform you are using, is to take a minute and write a one-sentence definition of what quality is in English language teaching, or what quality is in general, okay? So take 1 minute and write your comment. Caswini says, quality is effective assessment of the learning that happens. Interesting. Let's see some other comments and suggestions. Maybe you want to take a minute to think about it before you type your answer. What is quality? What does it mean to you? I know that there are people out there, because I saw the welcome messages and the good morning messages, so you cannot pretend not to be in front of your computer. So grab your keyboard and type out an answer for me, please. So what can quality be? How can we define quality? What is quality in English language teaching? Quality, the come out what learners had learned from the teacher. That's interesting. So if the learners learn what the teacher has taught, then you have provided them with quality education and a quality lesson. Thank you, Shirley Aquino. Deep learning, more than a lot of fancy apps. Is that quality? A benchmark on setting a standard. Ooh, wow, okay, so standardized teaching, standardized assessment might mean quality. It's when your work meets expectations, says Michelle. Expectations of your bosses, expectations of your students, or your own expectations? Which expectation are we talking about? Quality might differ in terms of who is viewing it. It's when the learner can quantify their explanation of vocabulary and its application. Sorry, my eyesight at 9:30 is not the best. It's very interesting that we have this quantifiable aspect of quality. Quality is the standard that is expected, the level of excellence expected. Although your definitions might sound similar, but they seem to be different as well. So how we seem to define quality depends on your own personal interpretation. So quality seems to mean different things for different people. And the learning has practical value in daily life. I think Kaswini is on fire, giving us lots of definitions of quality. And there's Lucille. Quality in ELT makes learning happen. I wish it would make learning happen, but unfortunately in teaching profession, that's usually not the case. All right, thank you so much for the comments. I think we can agree that we all have a different view of quality, depending on our own situation, on our context, and who we are, our own learning experiences. The search for quality in Persig's novel is what drives Phaedrus, this character from the past, of the narrator's past, insane in the novel. So Phaedrus, we learn, is somebody from the narrator's past, and later in the novel we learn that actually it's his past personality, quits his scientific job and tries to find what quality is as the meaning and purpose of his life. He takes a job in a small college to teach creative and technical writing because he hopes that there he would find what quality is. He even sets a writing assignment for his students to define what quality is. He hopes that some of the students might know the answer. And when they fail, this is when he starts losing his mind. Can we switch to the other view? So maybe the slide is a little bit bigger now. So Persig or Fabrice writes, quality. You know what it is, yet you don't know what it is. But that's self-contradictory. But some things are better than others. That is, they have more quality. But when you try to say what the quality is, apart from things that have it, it all goes poof. There's nothing to talk about. But if you can't say what quality is, how do you know what it is? Or how do you know if it even exists? If no one knows what it is, then for all practical purposes, it doesn't exist at all. But for all practical purposes, it really does exist. I mean, what else are the grades based on? Why else would people pay fortunes for some things and throw others in the trash pile? Obviously, some things are better than others. But what's the betterness? So round and round you go, spinning mental wheels and nowhere finding any place to get traction. What the hell is quality? What is it? So Fabrice is trying hard to define quality for himself, and the narrator in the novel is explaining what quality is through two different views of life. One of the views, and we can now go back to the other view, please, is the romantic view. And the narrator explains that for romantics, quality is intuition, quality is appreciation of aesthetic beauty, quality is something that surrounds us. And the narrator uses the friends who are riding with him on a motorcycle journey, the Sutherlands, as an example of romanticism. So he says that romantics appreciate things as they are, for their beauty, not necessarily for their technical usefulness. So the Sutherlands look at the journey across America on the motorbikes as an adventure. They choose a brand new BMW bike from Germany as their vehicle, and they believe that the German engineering, the German quality, the beauty of the machine is going to be enough for the journey. So they don't bring any spare parts with them. They don't know how to maintain the bike because they think that it will never break down. And when the bike eventually breaks down, then they are very frustrated. And they seem to think that their apprehension to technology is well justified, since technology is not working. So the romantic view of understanding is based on intuition, imagination, but definitely not on technical skills. Now, opposed to this, Persig talks about the classical view, and the narrator in the novel takes the classical view. And for a classicist, quality lies in the details. Understanding quality is understanding underlying form. For him, appreciating the little bits of machinery that have been designed for one particular reason is what quality is and where quality comes from. So for the journey, He brings an old American motorbike and lots of spare parts, and also his knowledge of maintaining and servicing the bike. So there is one part in the novel where they enter the mountains as they are riding across America, where he notices that the bike starts to make a strange noise and it's somehow losing power. So the next morning, during his regular inspection of the bike, he systematically examines the parts that he thinks might give problems. And he discovers that the spark plugs in the bike are black. And that suggests to him that the engine is not getting enough oxygen in the thin air of the higher altitude. So what he does, he adjusts the fuel oxygen or fuel air mixture of the bike, and there you go, the bike runs properly again. So this is where he stands with quality. This is where he thinks quality should come from. Not from the aesthetic beauty, not from the overall imaginative experiences, but the technical details, the perfection of how a machine runs. Now, how about the romantic and classical views in teaching? I'm sure in the past 1.5 years of online teaching, you have seen colleagues who were taking the classical view or the romantic view of teaching. I'm sure you had colleagues who simply hate online teaching, who don't like using technology. When their lessons don't go well, they would blame technology for not performing well. They usually say that, okay, give me a group of students and I will show you how teaching is done. We are going to be creative, we are going to be playful, we are going to have such a beautiful learning experience in the classroom, because teaching is about connecting with humans, it's not about technology. And then probably you also have colleagues who have very readily, willingly embraced online teaching. And they are the ones who talk about this new app or this other learning platform or this other software that you can use in your teaching. They are the ones who are crazy about their web cameras and they know the resolution. They are the ones who tell you that you should change your microphone for better quality sound. They are the ones who tell you that you should run a performance check on your laptop to make sure, and diagnostics to make sure that you get the best performance. I'm sure you have these people around you, right? Either this or that. But what it takes us is basically a different view. And in teaching, we don't usually talk about the romantic view and the classical view of teaching. We use different terms. So we talk about teaching as art and teaching as science. In a paper in 2007, two authors, Clark and Collins, they were talking about student-teacher supervision. And in that paper, they used two teachers as examples of two completely different views on teaching. One of the teachers was Nadine. And as they are explaining how Nadine teaches, they say that Nadine's teachings might seem a little bit chaotic. You know, when you enter the classroom, her desk is overflowing with papers. And to the casual visitor, it might take some time to actually spot Nadine in the classroom because she is not standing at the front. She might be crouching down talking to some student in this corner, or she might be discussing an idea with another student in another place of the classroom. But you need to look around to find her because she is not a very obvious authority figure in the classroom. In Nadine's classroom, ideas flow, they are created, they are elaborated on, they are probed, they are tested. because for Nadine, arriving at the correct answer is not an immediate concern. So she gives students choices. She enables them to make decisions because that's part of the pedagogy that she is using. For Nadine, there are no clearly defined learning objectives or learning outcomes. She has intentions for learning. So when an unexpected event happens in the classroom, for example, one of the students' grandmother from China arrives and visits the school, Nadine welcomes the opportunity and takes it as a chance for learning. So the pre-planned activities are interwoven with the impromptu, accidental learning activities. On the other hand, there's Eve. And if you visit Eve's classroom, the first impression you have is that her classroom is very well organized. You might even say that it's highly routinized. So in Eve's classroom, everything works like clockwork, or should I say, as a well-maintained motorcycle. There are no surprises. Everything is planned. There is predictability all around in the classroom. She has order. She has repetition. She has drills. Every element of the learning and teaching process is logged in place and has a particular function in her lesson. Actually, if you would visit her class now and you would come back a year later, in all likelihood, you would see the same lesson being taught, the same artifact generated, and the same activities done by the students. She clearly has very clearly defined learning objectives and outcomes. Now, I know that you are probably trying to think about whether you are more Nadine or more Eve. But put that thought aside for a little bit. And I want you to think about this more objectively. So here's a question for you again. Who do you think is a more successful teacher? Is it Nadine or is it Eve? And try to justify your answer. So who is more successful? Is it Nadine or is it Eve? Okay, give me your answer in the comments. Let's see if you have some answers. Who is more successful? Eve or Nadine? We need more info. What are they teaching? They are teaching, actually they are preschool teachers. Does that help? Yes, it's preschool teaching. So Devika from Singapore says that different students will prefer different styles. So it depends on how you define success. Very politically correct answer. I like that. How about others? Are you more Nadine or are you more Eve? Is your lesson improvised or is your lesson planned to the last minute? Januzi says, teaching online for me became too much me organizing myself online, and it was a real burden, but always I could hardly measure the quality of students' engagement. Yes, it's very difficult to gauge that, especially if your students don't turn on their cameras. Cassini said Eve would be more successful, but why is Eve more successful? Because young children benefit from routine. I see. I thought that young children would benefit from exploring ideas. Evelyn says that they try to be, or she tries to be both. Okay. Nothing would be more popular teacher, but if popularity is what makes a good teacher, that's a question. Wendy said that Nadine's lesson is more flexible and inclusive. I gravitate towards her teaching as I think she would be an interesting teacher. That's right. So we have all personal preferences, which teacher we like, which teacher we think would be more successful. So it's very difficult to decide which one is more successful. In actual fact, the authors, Clark and Collins, say that both of them were highly successful teachers in their own way. Okay? So what we have been trying to do is thinking about whether teaching is art or science. And we can't really arrive at a conclusion because probably it's a little bit both. You need the artistic side, you need the scientific side. And this is what Persig in his book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycles Maintenance, concludes, is that neither the romantic view nor the classical view is enough to define quality, because quality lies somewhere in between. So the narrator starts out as a classicist, fixing his American-made motorbike. And then he realizes that focusing on the details only, he is losing sight of the whole picture. He's losing sight of the beauty of the experience of traveling across America. So he's using philosophical discussion and reflection to talk about and discover quality. Now, in English language teaching, we are also thinking about what quality is, but we usually don't use philosophy. We use reflection and reflective practice to find out what quality is. So when you use reflective practice, you need different knowledge. You need craft knowledge. You need to know how to organize an activity. You need to know how to give instructions. You need to know how to elicit feedback from the learners, how to pair them, how to group them in the classroom. That's all craft knowledge. You also need an appreciation of the art, because we need to use our creativity. We need to use our intuition, our imagination in teaching. And you also need scientific knowledge in the form of theories generated by research. Research about language, research about language learning, child psychology, because these theories are the ones that validate our work in the classroom. These are the theories that will make us professional. And when we use reflective teaching, we are looking at all these different kinds of knowledge, and we are looking at what works in the classroom and what doesn't work in the classroom, and we adjust how much of craft, how much of art, and how much of science we put in our lessons. As an example, during the pandemic, during online teaching, all my craft knowledge has become obsolete completely. I mean, how do I organize students in groups? How do I do this? How do I get answers? I mean, most of the time I was talking to myself. So I had to relearn and reinvent my craft knowledge by using my artistic side, my creativity, my imagination, and also my scientific knowledge about teaching and learning. So it was through reflection that I managed to recreate a classroom atmosphere. So reflection is what saved me and my students from absolutely boring and ineffective lessons. I think reflection is the skill that we need now and a skill that we will need in the future. So reflection is the backbone of English language teaching. It is through reflection that you can appreciate teaching as an art. It is through reflection that you can refine the scientific knowledge. So reflection offers a different view of looking at teaching, not just in the categorization of art or science, romanticism or classicism. And interestingly enough, reflection is also the backbone of Zen Buddhism. So in the next few slides, I'm going to share you 4 principles of Zen Buddhism that I thought would very much be important for teachers to offer quality teaching. So let's see what these 4 points are. The first thing is that nothing is permanent. I think this is one of the key teachings of Zen Buddhism and Zen as a philosophy, is that the impermanence of things, that life is transient. And even if we get attached to certain things, we are going to experience loss. So we need to learn how to let go and not to hang on to things. Think about Eve's lesson. She's reusing her material, she's reusing her lesson plans again and again because they work. But we all know that the only thing that is permanent in teaching is change. So after a while, she will have to give up her lesson plans. She will have to let go of the materials that she's using. She will have to let go the way she starts a lesson or how she's organizing the classroom, because it will not work after a while. She will need to write a new lesson plan, she will need to source new materials, and she will need to think about how to do things differently in the classroom. For me, letting go was also an important lesson to learn. You know, at the beginning of the pandemic and online learning, I was very nervous. I felt helpless, I felt overwhelmed, especially when my students did not turn on their cameras and their microphones. I thought that I cannot reach out to them. You know, in a normal classroom, you would go and stand by a student who is not participating, but here in the virtual world, I couldn't do anything. So it frustrated me immensely. And then I realized that I took out my frustration on the students who were there, who were participating, because it was them to whom I complained about their peers. So I realized that I should not focus on the things that I cannot change. I should not focus on the students who are not participating, because nothing is permanent. The situation will change. I will change. They will change. So I focused on the interaction with the students who were there, and I started to enjoy my teaching. And also my student ratings on my teaching went up. So learning to let go was one of the most valuable lessons for me during the online teaching. The next principle is about enjoying the moment. So it's getting lost in the moment, experiencing the present to the full. So when you are doing something, when time simply seems to stop, when the outside world disappears, it's a little bit similar to how Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was defining flow. Unfortunately, he just passed very recently, but Csikszentmihalyi was saying that flow is one of the most enjoyable and desirable state of being, because when you are in flow, when you are in the moment, when you're focusing on something that you are doing, that everything else disappears around you, is when you become creative, is when you become very productive, and it's when you become happy. So being in the moment is something that we need to seek in the classroom. Be in the activity, be in the activity of teaching, be in the activity of lesson planning, and let yourself being lost. And the third principle that I would like to talk about is focusing on the process. And what does this mean, focusing on the process? If you remember, when I was talking about Nadine's classroom, I was talking about how ideas are bound, developed, probed in her lesson. So she allocates time for the students to develop ideas, to be in the process of thinking, rather than offering them ready-made answers just to save time. So for her, focusing on the process of learning, focusing on the process of developing her learner's mind is what brings quality into the lesson. Albert Einstein once was asked about the speed of sound. What was the speed of sound? And he said that he doesn't have that information offhand because he doesn't carry such information in his head. There are textbooks where you can find the answer. So he said that the main purpose of education is not to teach facts, but to train mind to think. In the English language classroom, you should think about the process as offering students meaningful tasks where they can try to express themselves and they can use their linguistic creativity to communicate an idea. So in a way, the journey is sometimes more important than the destination. And the final point that I want to bring in is the principle of simplicity over chaos. The Japanese artist, designer, architect, Dr. Koichi Kawana once said that simplicity means achieving maximum effect with minimum means. People are a little bit afraid of simplicity because they think that they might be considered to be lightweight. So, when in doubt, they would add more things into what they are doing, into their teachings. But this may not be right, because if you put too many activities, if you overcomplicate your lesson, then you're not helping your students to learn, and you're causing a lot of stress to yourself. I don't know if you know the name of Ted Ragg, Professor Ted Ragg. He spent quite a lot of his time, of his professional life, on examining teacher questions. And he said that teachers ask many types of questions. And he said that he once observed a lesson that was very, very effective. And that lesson was based on one simple opening question and a few probing ones. And the question was, what's going to happen when the new motorway reaches our town? I was once working with the English Language Institute of Singapore as a research mentor, helping secondary school teachers to examine their own practice in different action research projects. And I was working with a group of geography teachers who were not happy with the way their students were talking in class, because they wanted them to speak like geographers. But the students were always offering very short, sometimes Singlish answers, so they didn't sound very valid when it comes to geography talk. So they thought that maybe the way they're asking questions is what inhibits the students to use language to the full. So I suggested to them that what they need to do is probably video record their lessons, then count how many questions they ask in one lesson, and try to categorize what kind of questions they are asking. Are they asking managerial questions like, who's got the book? Have you done your homework? Can you give a piece of paper to your friend? Or are they asking factual recall questions, which require a simple answer, like, what's the capital of France? Paris. Next question. Or are they asking higher order thinking questions that make the student think and produce more elaborate lessons? So they went on and they recorded themselves in the class. And to their utmost surprise, they found out that they ask a lot of higher order questions. In one teacher's case, she asked 42 higher order questions in a 1 hour lesson. So the reason why the students were not able to speak is because they didn't have time to process the question. They didn't have time to think. So in a way, Kaswini took away my PowerPoint slide. In a way, I think she's just reminding me that time is coming up, and I know about that. So in a way, you have to teach less for more learning to take place. Now, wrapping it over, we were thinking about the ultimate question of what is quality in English language teaching. So we looked at the romantic view and the classical view. We looked at teaching as art, teaching as science. We looked at reflection as the backbone of good teaching and quality teaching. Actually, this is what I think. And I also try to offer you some Zen principles that can help you bring quality into your life and also to your students' learning processes. I want to finish the talk with a quote again from the book. And at one point, the author asks a question. You want to know how to paint a perfect painting? Then he goes on to answer the question. It's easy. Make yourself perfect and then just paint naturally. So, you want to know how to teach a perfect lesson? It's easy. Make yourself perfect and then just teach naturally. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and all the comments that you have offered in the comments. Thank you.
Hello, welcome back to me. Okay, that is a good and interesting keynote, but now we will open the floor to questions. So our tech team will highlight some of the questions onto the screen.
It was a little bit worrying because you know what you said. It was a good keynote, but I said, oh, what did I do?
Oh, no, I think it's a Freudian trip. So the question I have here is actually, is it what's the difference between reflexive and reflective teaching?
This question comes from Kaswini. Very nice. She has been highlighted. Reflexive teaching and reflective teaching. Very good question. Reflective practice comes from the 1980s, emphasized by the work of Donald Schoen, whereas reflexive teaching is a newer concept through the work of Adrian Underhill. Reflexive teaching is not necessarily just reflecting on experience, it's more like also reflecting in the experience, if I understand it correctly. If I'm not, I'm sure Adrian will not be very happy with my explanation, but nobody can carry lots of information in their head. There are textbooks that you can look them up, right?
There's also this, we discussed the idea of...
We did.
Yeah. So we discussed the idea of teachers learning how to appreciate the big picture and also the small picture. So there are many comments here who really appreciate that aspect that you brought to us in this keynote. So time is not on our side. With that, I would like to say...
We have to be in the moment. We have to enjoy the moment, okay? So, you know, when you're in the moment, time simply stops. Unfortunately, in reality, time doesn't stop.
Yeah. Thank you so much to all of the audience members for your wonderful comments. And thank you so much to our speaker for this wonderful topic that is very thought-provoking and has set the tone for our conference.
Thank you for the invitation.